love flowing in there, right?
Yeah.
And then I noticed that it was always saying that. That it was a serious party pooper, right?
Yeah.
And then I noticed that it was
There's no
saying,
bigger party pooper than the mind
there
if
is
you don't
none.
manage
It's
it.
what's doing it. And then I noticed it would say things like, well, I'll be happy if this happens. Okay, and yes, it's true. If that happened, I'd be happy. But there are 700 billion other things that could have happened instead of that. And by saying, I'll be happy if that happens, you said I won't be happy if all the rest happens, because I'm looking just for that. And I started watching that, spending a lot of time with that, and realizing the mind can be a serious problem. All right. But it is also true that if you learn to work with it, not mind control, but learn to understand why the mind is doing what it's doing and undercut that, that you will find that it's a tremendously beautiful tool that can serve you beautifully instead of being a party pooper.
It's so true. And I felt like going through the course itself, I felt like it just gave fundamental principles of the why we experience this. And it's something that people really don't talk about. I mean, I think it's the one common ground that unites all of us in this human experience on Earth School. We all experience pain. We all feel fear. We all can feel crazy inside of our minds at times. And I just felt like it gave just such a beautiful context of the why, and understanding that why, the clear way to be able to navigate and catch yourself and get some distance to get behind that in the most beautiful way. And I just felt like there was just such a, you gave such beautiful examples and stories. We watched it like a Netflix binge watch.
Oh, actually, that's right.
We really did. We loved it. It was just, you were so beautiful, and you gave such consistent context of the understanding that just really created a beautiful unraveling inside, Mickey.
Thank you. Thank you.
You know, you talk about, I think people in the West see the power of the mind from the standpoint of, like you're talking about, we split the atom, we put a man on the moon, for God's sakes. But then we don't realize that if we don't train and step out of the mind, that it starts to run us. Especially technology today has really begun to refine that. So what is it? Why is it this dangerous place? And how can we begin to change it or begin to come to something deeper?
It took me a long time to actually clearly see what was going on. Because the first thing you try to do is shut the thing up.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Say to somebody, used to say, shut up, right?
Literally.
And you realize it's not about mind control, right? It's why is the mind doing that, not don't do that.
Yes.
Why would it do that? Somebody once asked me, after they read The Untethered Soul, and talk about that voice in your head drives you crazy, they literally said, why did God put that in there? Why would he do such a thing, right? And you realize, no, that's not what happened, right? And in the most succinct way I can say it, what happened is as follows, all right? You have had experiences, we all have, in our lives that were not pleasant. Somebody hurt us, the house burned down, we broke an arm, lots of things, we saw a snake, lots of things happen that when they come in, we who are in there don't enjoy the experience, we don't like the experience. But what we do, because we don't want to have the experience, is we try to push it away. We try to control it so it doesn't come all the way into us. And it seems natural. Like if somebody took a swing at you, you put your arm up.
Yeah.
Well, this is like that. Something comes in and you have hands in there, right? And you use your will to keep this from coming too close. But what you don't realize is that when you do that, it stays inside of you.
It gets trapped.
It stays inside of you. It's trapped. You trap the energy with all of that discord,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Because you didn't let it pass. You didn't let it free. And by the time you spend a very little period of time on this earth, you've collected a bunch of those, right? Psychology says your formative years are what? The collection of that stuff, right? It doesn't want to stay in there. That's what people don't understand. It is not true that it's burned into your brain. You are holding it there with your will. And you know that because every time it comes back up, you push it back down.
Somebody's so afraid to feel it.
That's
Yes.
exactly right. Somebody says something that disturbs you, and you said, I need a moment. If you're lucky, if you don't hit them, right? I need a moment, right? And you start with your breath, and you push, and then you say, I'm okay now. No, you're not. You pushed it back down, okay? And so to make a long story short, it's a long story, right? What would happen if you collected every single thing that disturbed you during your entire life inside of your mind? You would have a disturbed mind, and that's what's going on.
For the vast majority of us. So, you know, one of the things that I loved in the course, there was an insight. It was so simple, but, you know, I always believe that most of us make life so complex, and the enemy of execution is complexity. So you did a beautiful job of simplicity, and I've shared it many times also to remind myself that whenever we feel stress, we all feel frustration, anger, worry, sadness, loneliness, whatever, depression, any emotion that disturbs us, that what most of us do is we try to focus on the outside world to change something, change her, change him, change the environment, change the job,
Distract
change
ourselves.
change the culture, change the music, change the something. but we're all trying to change the outside world so that we can feel good on the inside. When in reality, we just need to go work on the inside. So when our triggers, when life strikes us and we feel that internal reaction to the external world, it's still what's going on inside. How do we release that? How do we let that go?
So my experience is, first of all, there are things you can do, but the same things everybody else teaches, which is don't hit somebody. To learn to shut your mouth up. Don't let that express through your mouth because you're going to pay for that, right?
Yeah.
So the first thing is a certain amount of self-control, which we all need in order to be successful, right?
Yeah.
But that's not the answer,
Yeah.
right? The answer is every single moment is not the big stuff that you work with. That's too late. It already bothered you. Yes, you have to deal with it. Yeah. But what I want and what I've learned is there is every moment of your life, little things that create little irritations.
Yes.
The driver's driving 15 miles an hour below the speed limit in front of you and you're in a rush. It rains when you have to get out and deliver something. It's hot, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
Somebody doesn't say hello. Hey, Sally, how you doing? She doesn't turn around. Oh, my God. You will watch your mind cause serious problems, all right? So to me, that is where the growth comes from, in those moments. Are you willing to say, come on, what's the cost-benefit analysis of bothering myself about the driver in front of me? It's not bothering them. I guarantee you, they're not hearing a word you're saying, right? So as a business person, we're supposed to take cost-benefit analysis, the maximum benefit for the least cost. Those are 100% cost, zero benefit. Right or wrong.
It's all pain.
So you don't do it. So you learn, and there are lots of techniques. You just learn to work with yourself. You can neutralize it by saying something nice. You can get a mantra going inside so you pay attention to something else instead of that. Or my ultimate teaching, and it's yours also in a sense, is you relax. You relax. You just sit there and say, I can relax and breathe. It's okay that this is happening. And then what you're doing is allowing the energy to release. The whole idea is you don't engage with it. You sit behind it and you allow it to release. And not only do you go through that moment okay now, right? But you've actually let some of that stored up stuff that's causing the problem. Like, what is road rage? It's somebody who, because somebody beeped at them or is driving slow, has so much stuff inside of them that it needs an excuse to come out. That's it, okay? So we all... I hope we don't all, right? But we all have stuff inside that we've stored over our lives. So by backing off and letting go in these simple little situations, they matter. It matters that you're complaining about the heat. You understand that, right? It's not innocent. You're permitting, sometimes you get very angry about some stupid thing. You're giving a channel for your stuff to come up.
You're wiring yourself to complain.
Exactly.
What's wrong.
And so instead, you relax. It's called R&R. You get R&R, relax and release, right? And what will happen is not only do you make it past that moment without causing a lot of trouble and taking on all kinds of stuff, but you've let some of that stuff go. And you get